And we are live, folks. Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. The committee is meeting in person with some members participating remotely. Public access to the meeting is available via the YouTube video platform. At this time, I'll conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present when your name is called. Luna, present. Karina Edmonds.
Present.
Richard Humphreys.
Present.
Neil Quarry. Present. Tom Ryan.
Present.
Hannah Backer.
Present.
Dennis Duffy.
Present.
Margot Cook. Michael McNally. Mark Parlange. I believe we have a quorum. Quorum is present. I'll call the meeting to order. And just a reminder to all members, for the benefit of the virtual audience and the note taker, please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion, or second to a motion. I'd like to welcome Hannah Backer to the committee. Hannah was appointed by President Parlange to serve on the Board of Trustees as student representative. Hannah is currently a junior at URI and is also a student athlete on the women's rowing team. She's majoring in communications with a double minor in leadership studies in crime, justice, and law. Hannah holds positions on the athletic advisory board as the student representative, is the Atlantic 10 representative for the student athlete advisory committee. Further, Hannah is an intern for ISTAND, URI's Bystander Intervention Program for Sexual Assault on college campuses. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
We just met. Glad you're on my committee. I'd also like to welcome Dennis J. Duffy to the committee. Dennis is a member of the Rhode Island Council on Post-Secondary Education and was recently appointed by Governor McKee to serve as chair. As such, he is now a member of the URI Board of Trustees. Dennis is General Counsel and Vice President of Energy Management, Inc. He is also an adjunct professor at Boston College Law School and a director of the Slater Technology Fund. Dennis was previously a partner of the law firm Partridge, Snow and Hahn, and is a graduate of Columbia Law School and ours truly, the University of Rhode Island. The first order of business is the acceptance of the agenda. May I have a motion that the Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee of the URI Board of Trustees accept the agenda for the meeting of April 21st, 2022?
Tom Ryan, I accept.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, say yes.
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 Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is item 2, approval of the minutes for the January 20th, 2022 meeting. May I have a motion that the Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee of the URI Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the January 20th, 2022 Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee meeting? So moved. Is there a second to the motion?
Karina Edmonds, second.
Any discussion on the motion? There being no discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor? Yes.
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 The next item on the agenda is item 3, the discussion item. We've got 4 of them. I'm gonna not go in order here. I'll jump to item C, and that's the compliance review update. I'll ask Carol Larson to introduce this item.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Jekyll Island, Georgia. It's a beautiful day here, and I wish I could be out on the balcony overlooking the ocean doing this with you, but it's too much glare on this computer screen. So we're jumping out of order, so I will pull up my compliance review. Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We do not
Okay.
see- I'm sorry.
Sorry?
We don't see the PowerPoint on this end.
No. We're seeing your file viewer, your folders. We're not.
Oh,
seeing the
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
let
just want to bring
me-
it over to another screen there, Cara.
All right, let's try again. That looks like it's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just real quick though, before I get really into this, I just wanted to also welcome Hannah to the board. I'm the Title IX coordinator, Hannah, and I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your working with the iStand group. Keith LaBelle works for me, so welcome and thank you very much for your participation in the iStanders. So, compliance review. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we currently have as our building blocks of our university compliance program. And then what, in speaking with Abby Ryder, we kind of decided to do when we do compliance reviews for you at each meeting, that rather than try to cover a whole lot of different things that are going on, we were going to focus in more detail on a specific compliance activity. So after I go through a little bit about what we've already got underpinning the fundamentals of our compliance program, I'm going to talk a little bit about our current activity with the United States Department of Agricultural Compliance, Civil Rights Compliance Review. So this is a slide that just is a listing of the things that we've been putting into place over time. So we did create the Office of Compliance under Enterprise Risk Management, and we hired a university compliance officer. Her name is Lindsay Nottage. I believe I've mentioned that before. And while she doesn't directly oversee all of the compliance, she tracks and monitors and dives in to help with various compliance activities that other parts of our university, our compliance partners are doing. She also oversees the compliance and ethics program that we have an anonymous reporting hotline and case management system. We also have this committee that provides the board oversight of our compliance and ethics program. The board also may remember that you guys passed 3 policies that deal with ethical conduct and codes of conduct. There's the institutional university ethics policy. Then there's the policy on research ethics, ethical conduct and research. And then there was the public and private partnership policy that were all adopted by the board. And all 3 deal with different aspects of our code of ethics. Our human resources department has always done employee background checks for new employees, but they're enhancing that and enhancing the corresponding policy. And as the governance committee is more aware of, and as you guys in meeting with the full board are aware of, when you pass policies, we do have and are continually improving our campus-wide policy and procedure management program. Myself and Dan Moose, who also works for Abby, we are in charge of overseeing the development of policies and shepherding them through the process of vetting and approval by the Administrative Policy Committee, which is the leadership of the university, as well as policies that are also board policies and then move on to the board. The next one is has to do with staff training and awareness programs. This one isn't quite checked off yet. We're still working on this one, but we've got different trainings. We have the mandatory sexual violence prevention training. We have a compliance awareness month that Lindsay is creating. that's going to put out a lot of communication and different activities. In the next one will be in November, I believe. And she's also acting as our compliance specialist and investigator currently. If we were ever to obtain more resources, of course, we would like to increase our staffing in the compliance and investigation unit. But right now, Lindsay's a one-person shop on that. The other thing that is yet to be completed is integrating compliance and ethics criteria into the staff performance reviews, and that's also in the works. And finally, the university uses external audits to continually monitor and assess different practices. For instance, the audited financial statements and things like that. So this is what we've managed, what we've been putting in place over the last year or two that we're calling the fundamentals of our compliance program. So as I mentioned, I'm going to talk specifically about one specific compliance program or compliance activity that we're doing right now, because the United States Department of Agriculture did give us notice in January that they are conducting a review of our civil rights compliance, and they'll be out to the university June 21st to 24th to conduct that review. So I'll talk a little bit about our preparation for that, but a little bit of background. So the university is engaged with the United States Department of Agriculture primarily through three different agencies: NIFA, FAS, and FNS. FNS is the Food and Nutrition Security, what we call SNAP. FAS is the Foreign Agricultural Service, and that is the focus of this current review that they're doing. And then NIFA, which is primarily funds our extension program that is operated through the College of Environmental and Life Sciences. So between July 1st, 2020 and the beginning of March of this year, URI has received 51 awards and $10 million in funding for different activities. And so that's the basis upon which we then become obligated through that funding to make sure that we are in compliance with their regulations regarding civil rights. And so again, this is the more detailed look at how we interact with the USDA. Cooperative Extension, the Coastal Resource Center in the Graduate School of Oceanography, which is the focus of the current review, and then our up in Providence, our food assistance SNAP program. Just as an aside, the NIFA review will be in February of 23. So they will also, USDA will also be coming to campus next February to do a similar review with respect specifically to our cooperative extension program. So just generally, the USDA civil rights compliance requirements are the same as our general civil rights compliance obligations, and that's to prohibit discrimination in all programs and activities on the basis of a protected status, such as race, national origin, age, disability, sex, veteran status, and genetic information. All sorts of things are included in these prohibitions on discrimination. So when this first came to the university, it was by letter to Ted Myatt, Assistant Vice President in the Research Administration. And he immediately reached out to myself and Lindsay and asked for our assistance. There are 2 contracts that are being managed at the Coastal Resource Center by Karen Ken, and she and her staff, Woody Woodring, are the actual, they're the ones actually being asked to respond to the review. So we have jumped in and we've been participating with them in various meetings and preparatory activities. And so what this slide shows is all of the parts of the university that are helping out to prepare for this. We have research administration through Ted and his team, the program manager and principal investigator at Coastal Resources, our Office of Affirmative Action, Equal Opportunity, because they do they're primarily responsible for the civil rights compliance for the university. Risk management, that's me. Enterprise compliance, that's Lindsay. And a number of faculty and staff are being asked to help prepare and participate in the review. And capital projects and facilities, and they're a very important part of this review as well, because part of the review is our ADA compliance. And ADA compliance not only refers to non-discrimination in employment and providing equal opportunity for persons with disabilities, but it also covers physical access to the facility, to the facilities. And so capital projects and facilities is going to be playing a very large part in this review to answer the questions regarding how well we provide access through to our public areas, bathrooms and ingress and egress and things like that. So that's basically what we're doing. We anticipate having some information provided to the USDA in, I think May 7th is the first deadline for our worksheets. And they've asked for a lot of information. They have a big checklist. We meet about monthly to prepare for this review. And then when they're on campus, they've already started scheduling interviews with a variety of people between affirmative action and myself and human resources and the principal investigators and other faculty and staff who are also involved in the projects that are funded by the USDA. So this was to give you just an overview of a particular compliance activity that comes across our desks in enterprise risk management and Lindsay's desk in particular as the enterprise compliance director, that we're here to assist with getting people through the process. The last one of these that the USDA did was in 2017 for the FAS, for the Foreign Agricultural Service. And so we were able to take the report that came out of that review and are basically using that as the model for being ready for this current one. And so we feel like we are in very, very good shape to meet this review and to come out very well at the end of it. So I'll take any questions anyone might have about this.
Could you remind me how the USDA audit was initiated? What brought them to you?
Oh, it's just periodic. They just go periodically around, and they sent a letter in January to Ted Myatt saying that it was time again for another look at our review.
So they were not responding. They weren't responding
Sorry?
to the complaint. They were not responding to.
No, it's just they cycle through the contracts that they fund, the contracts that evidence the programs that we get funding for, and they do reviews based on that. It was longer between these reviews than would normally be because of the pandemic. In fact, we originally thought that they might not even do this one in person because of the COVID crisis, but they are indeed planning to come to campus in person. And so if we're finally reaching to the other side of the pandemic, we actually anticipate being on a little bit more frequent audit review schedule.
Have other federal agencies done civil rights reviews?
Not to my knowledge. The USDA one, well, the DOJ did one, but that was done in like over 10 years. I think the final report came out in 2015, but I believe that that was done by the Department of Justice as a result of a specific complaint, but that's the only other civil rights compliance review that I'm aware of.
What's the, typically, what's the frequency of these reviews from USDA?
Usually every 2 to 3 years, depending. But as I said, like next year, because the USDA is made up of several sub-agencies, the NIFA is coming in next year specifically to look at the civil rights compliance for the extension, the cooperative extension program. So these are a little bit more back to back than we would have anticipated, but it's because there are different sub-agencies within USDA, and they operate fairly independently with respect to their compliance reviews.
This is Karina.
Because the NIFA doesn't come in nearly as frequently. The NIFA comes in many more years apart because they have a lot more, I believe that they go to a lot more universities that have cooperative extension programs.
This is Karina. I wonder if this is related to, I heard on NPR article earlier this week on just the practices within, because they've been such, the number of Black farmers is so much lower than non-Black farmers. And I just saw there was this big expose, and I'm wondering if they're like going down into the university, the academic routes as well, because I just wouldn't expect that department to be looking into these types of activities. But do you?
They didn't identify that there was a specific reason. It was just a regularly scheduled
Okay.
audit. And the FAS contracts that they're auditing are actually being performed in Ghana.
Okay.
For this particular compliance review.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Carol, I'll have you cover the next discussion item, and that's the review of institutional risk assessment and mitigation plans update.
Okay, sounds great, because I have that one queued up too. All right, so this agenda item has to do with our overall enterprise risk management program and what we've been doing here. So a couple of just our general work that takes up most of our time. A lot of it obviously has to do with insurance for various activities throughout the university. At the last meeting, you heard a fascinating presentation about a program that's going to be occurring in Fiji. And so as part of that program, we're working very closely with those folks and with outside counsel on procuring the appropriate insurance. And we're also working very closely on an exciting new, with our diving program, and an exciting new collaboration with the Ocean Exploration Trust, Professor Ballard's project. Which is a very, very complicated insurance question, because scuba diving is a very hard to insure activity. But it's so that's also a fascinating insurance question that we're also working very closely with Anya and the diving program on. In terms of risk assessments, I spent a lot of time with the travel abroad program, the study abroad program throughout 2021, doing a risk assessment with them. And the mitigation plan is primarily through the institution of written documented procedures to address the risks that are facing students as they study in other countries. and as well as to leverage our insurance. We do have insurance for the study abroad program, and there's crisis response aspect to that. And so we are working closely with now Kristen Johnson, who's the new interim provost for that program, on getting those things into place so that as the pandemic eases and we're getting back out into the world and sending our students abroad, that all of the risks associated with that can be properly mitigated using the resources that are available through our insurance carrier, and by having much more documented procedures regarding who roles and responsibilities, who does what with respect to any particular crisis that might come up for a student, or a crisis that might actually occur in a country, and not specifically to a student, but something that might be occurring in a foreign country that we need to address, similar to the way the university had to react when we had to suddenly bring students home at the outbreak of the pandemic. And we are currently dealing with some students in some global hotspots. And so it's going to be very good to get things documented in a place. But what we've discovered through trying to do traditional risk assessment and risk mitigation is it's a very lengthy process. And we simply don't have the staffing to do it the way we were originally planning to do it. I've talked to you before about our IT risk assessment, and now we've done the travel abroad risk assessment. And they're just very time consuming, and it takes a lot of time to work with the staff in those areas. So what we're doing is we're kind of taking a step back, and we're going to kind of look at how we're doing this. And in an effort to streamline our whole process of doing the risk assessments and helping the different parts of the university mitigate their risks, we've got to kind of do it in a little bit more of a streamlined top-down fashion. So we're kind of, as I said, stepping back, and we're getting back to basics. I've written an ERM policy, enterprise risk management policy. We're also preparing a guide, which will be a toolkit to assist departments in assessing risk and developing mitigation strategies. So we'll be putting together risk assessment tools, performing outreach and education, and then of course there'll be the constant reporting and monitoring. And the point of all of this is to educate risk owners well enough that they can do a lot of the risk assessment on their own, given the lack of resources to really get in there and spend a lot of significant time on any one activity of the university. So the policy that I've drafted has as the following goals: is to develop a very inclusive and risk-aware culture. And part of that is by having a consistent and systematic approach to risk management, and our education of risk owners and leaders in that approach, then they'll be able to be more automated, be able to do their risk assessment more on their own with our overall guidance and advice, as opposed to being sort of in it with them every single day, since we just simply haven't been able to get into the rhythm of that due to the lack of time and resources. So the policy will incorporate organizational risk management into strategic planning and management processes. We want to integrate the management of risks into the day-to-day management and accountability processes in the various parts of the university, and doing that by clearly defining roles and responsibilities for managing risks. So I hope to get that policy through the policy development and approval procedure in the next couple of months, and get that announced to the university. We have also started drafting a risk assessment and mitigation, a guide to risk assessment and mitigation strategy. And this will be the toolkit. This will provide risk owners with everything they need to kind of be independent and do this on their own. It's kind of similar to the way that the university is also developing business continuity plans. Each of the a toolkit was created, and emergency management is distributing that to all the different departments and asking the departments to complete the business continuity plan on their own. And then, you know, there'll be follow on and advice and everything, but it's kind of the same approach as our business continuity planning approach at the moment. And this is just a sample worksheet. I've talked to you before about the risk process of you define your risk, you evaluate it by scoring it by likelihood and severity, and you create your treatment strategies and treatment plans. And then this is a sample worksheet that the departments would then use to create their own risk assessments with our help. And then once we have our toolkit set up, we're going to meet with deans and department chairs and directors of different departments to talk to them about the process and then help them use these tools to identify and assess their risks. And then we'll be able to provide guidance on treatment plans that they can come up with. And we hope that through this process, one, it results in people actually feeling a little bit more ownership of risks and to engage with their own risks in a little more proactive fashion, and as well as allow us to get a lot more risk assessing done throughout the university, rather than continue at the very slow pace that we've been in, simply because, again, I'm the Title IX coordinator. I oversee civil rights compliance and equal opportunity. I oversee environmental health and safety. I'm overseeing, you know, the insurance. So there just isn't enough time to also get into the weeds on risk assessment without additional resources. And also, it's also my dream there are many software platforms available to help with this process. And so I would hope at some point as well to be able to find resources to procure a risk management platform, so we can also leverage technology that will make it a whole lot easier to assess risk and to monitor and help with treatment plans and making sure the treatment plans are working. So then, you know, as we roll out this new approach, you know, we'll be doing risk summary reports, which will be reported to university leadership and then rolled up to this group, which will provide status updates on how treatment plans are going, how the risks are going, and then we'll be doing periodic check-ins with departments to measure their success and to determine whether their new risks have arisen. And if they have, are they being assessed and treated? Now, I did do an institutional level risk register that was provided to President Parlange at the beginning of January. And so that's where we're really going to kind of start with those known risks that were provided in that risk register. And we'll start by gathering the data to fill in, to fully assess those known risks and sort of fill in all of that on the risk register that we provided to President Parlange. So, any questions on that?
I don't have a question, more of a comment. I've seen the development of this plan to get us to the point where we actually have a risk register. And in parallel, we've been managing through a significant number of risks that the university faced, and you know, that those risks didn't wait. The risks in the operating environment, the university's operating environment, didn't wait for the development of this plan, and we still managed through it. So I applaud you and your team for getting through some tough times this past year.
Well, we're certainly not waiting to manage and help manage risks. I mean, this is just, is to provide a structure for it. But obviously, as risks arise and as we know, there's risk and opportunity. Like the Fiji project is not only a risk, but it presents a wonderful opportunity. And so, we're not obviously we're jumping right in and working on mitigating all the risks associated with that through appropriate levels of insurance. So yeah, all of that day-to-day work of everyday management of risk and controlling risk doesn't stop simply because we're trying to, create a toolkit that will help university leaders be a little more self-sufficient as well in assessing and mitigating their risks.
Any additional questions? I can go on and on about some of the technical risks that we faced as a university and how we managed through that, but we'll be here for longer than the time I have allotted to me. So
I can go on too.
thank you, Kara. I'll now jump to discussion item A, and that's the annual review of the Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee charters. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to read it. I'll only read snippets of it, specifically the purpose of the charter, just as a reminder. That's that the committee assists the board in maintaining the integrity of the university's financial systems and the effective management of risk, including that arising from non-compliance with laws and regulations, oversight of potential misbehaviors, and complex decisions with uncertain outcomes. I'll jump to the core functions of the include. I won't rattle all of those off, but the overall objective theme is really continuous monitoring and assessment of risk, so that we can get to a point where we are really determining what our risk tolerance is as a university for a number of different types of risks that the university faces, and how we and the metrics involved in reaching those conclusions on how we tolerate and mitigate risks. Does anyone want to add to that any observations that you've made over the course of the last year and how we manage risks? I'll jump to the university liaisons. We'll continue to work closely with Dr. Snyder, Abigail Ryder, and Carol. Thank you for all of your support, and looking forward to continuing to get that support over the next year. The next discussion item is the calendar. Again, I won't rattle off all of the agendas for all of the meetings. Any questions on the calendar?
Looks good.
Great. Final item on today's agenda is item 4, and that's to adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Or second? All in favor? Say
Yes.
All right, the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for June 23rd. We're actually considering having subcommittees meet virtually several days before the large group meeting. More info to come there. I'll make sure to be in touch with how we're going to proceed in that manner.
We do that virtually, Robbie, right?
Yeah, we'll do that virtually. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
See you tomorrow.